guys, it's Amber. Welcome to my channel. Welcome if you are new. So today's video is about the summer book bingo challenge that I am participating in. It is put on by Tiffany from Beautiful Minutia. I will list her channel down in the comments. That way, if you do want to participate as well, you can. So the book bingo, which I will put up here for you, is a way to read various books because of different prompts. So this has helped me to get out of my comfort zone a little bit. I did try and choose some books that I wouldn't normally choose. As a fantasy lover specifically, there are some books that aren't my normal picks that I picked for some of these prompts. So it's a way to get out of my comfort zone, which I am proud of myself for doing, for sure. And each row gets you a bingo, so you don't have to fill up the whole board to get a bingo. Each bingo that you do get enters you into a prize that you can win at the end of the summer. So this takes place from June 1st, which this video will go up after it's June 1st. So the beginning of June through August, the end of August. So lots of time to get some bingos in. So definitely, like I said, check it out if you want to participate as well, to win a prize or just, just to do something fun. So this is on top of my TBR. If you did watch my TBR video for June, you can see my choices here. I did a smaller amount this time since I have this challenge that I am participating in too. So let's jump into it. I will read the prompt and I'll go across each row. I'll read the prompt and then show you the book that I chose for the prompt. A few of the books have not come in for me from the library. Most of these books are library books actually, because that's how I usually get most of my books. And then I choose to buy the book if I end up loving it. So I just don't have a ton of room to buy every single book. So that's how I like to do it. So most of these books are library books. Okay, enough rambling. Let's jump in. The first one in the first spot on the bingo card is Place You Would Like to Visit. And I chose the book The Season by Sarah MacLean, which takes place in Regency, England. I've always been a Regency, England fan, and I love a Regency romance specifically. I love Jane Austen. I love, all that type of thing. So I was like, oh, this one will be perfect. So The Season by Sarah MacLean. Then we have a classic book. This one has not come in for me yet from the library. I decided to choose one that's called White Nights, and it is by, let's see, what is his name again? It's a Russian classic written in the early 1800s, I think it is, or like mid 1800s, and it's by Fyodor Dostoevsky. There we go. I'm sorry. I'm butchering the name. I'm very sorry. And it's about, I guess, like the concept of love and that sort of thing is what I've heard about it. So I'm very intrigued and decided that that would be a good one to choose for that. Okay, the next one is House of Marion. And this one is for hot cover. And I chose this one because, as you can see, there's some fire on those flowers. So this is by J.L. I honestly can't remember much about this one. I know it is a fantasy. 17-year-old Quell has lived her entire life on the run. She and her mother have fled from city to city in order to hide the deadly magic that flows through Quell's veins until someone discovers her dark secret. To hide from the assassin hunting her and keep her mother out of harm's way, Quell reluctantly inducts into a debutante society of magical social elites, which she never knew existed, called the Order. If she can pass their 3 rites of membership, mastering their proper form of magic, she'll be able to secretly bury her forbidden magic forever. If her dark magic is discovered, she will be killed. So, sounds good, which is why I did choose it. Okay, the next book in that row is book in a series. I chose The Prisoner's Throne by Holly Black. This is the second in the duology. Sorry guys, I haven't done it yet, but I am doing my May wrap up of books, and that one, the first book, which is called, what was it called again? The Stolen Heir. That one will be, I'll talk about that in that book. So this is a continuation of an the Elfhame series. I'm stumbling over my words, I'm sorry. And it's, yeah, so I'm excited to pick this one up to finish the duology. Then we have the last in the row is a joyful book. And I chose Borrow My Heart by Cassie West. And this one just looks like it's a super cute rom-com type novel. And so, as you can see, the little doggies on there and the little cute couple. So this one felt like it would be a really sweet romantic story. So I figured that would be good for that prompt. Okay, on to the next row. Our first in that row is a second chance book. So this one was in my TBR pile for the month of May. I did not finish it. I actually stopped it and started a different book because I was just not feeling it. Didn't just dislike it, didn't want to DNF it or anything like that. But I just was like, well, I'll come back to it. So that ended up not happening for my TBR in May. So I figured this will be the perfect one to choose for that prompt. I'm giving it a second chance, and that is A Curious Beginning by Deanna Raybourn. This is the first book in the Veronica Speedwell mystery series. So I was enjoying it, but like I said, it wasn't hitting me right at that moment when I was reading it. Wasn't gripping me, so I'm gonna try again. Hopefully I can get through it this time. Okay, then after that, on the second row, we have Judge a Book by its cover. And judge a book by its cover, which is what I do a lot of the times. If it has a pretty cover, it gets me to look at it, not necessarily read it. I always read the synopsis usually. So I shouldn't say always. I usually, most of the time, 99% of the time, I do read the synopsis after looking at the cover, but the cover definitely draws me in. So I decided to choose These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong. This is a retelling of Romeo and Juliet. It's a duology, I think. So this is the first book in the series, and it's a retelling, and it takes place in like a magical version. Well, I don't know if it's about a magical version, but it takes place in Shanghai in the 1920s. So it's about 2 rival gangs in Shanghai. So sounds good. The cover is beautiful. That's why I picked it. So that's that one. Then we have the next book in that row is nonfiction book. This is a genre I don't read a lot of, but I saw this book and I was like, you know what, this sounds like one that will be really good. Plus I was looking for one that was smaller, since I do have a lot that are kind of hefty in size. And it is Night by Elie Wiesel. He was in Auschwitz. Is that how you say it? Auschwitz? I'm sorry. He was a Jew in one of the Nazi concentration camps. So it is about his time there and all his experiences. So I know it'll probably make me cry. It'll be a very heavy read, I know. But he, you know, looking on the bright side, he did survive. He did persevere through all that awfulness. And so at least I can look towards that. But I know it's going to be hard to read, but it's small. Sounds fascinating. So Night by Elie Wiesel. Okay, then the next one in that row is graphic novel or manga. I have been reading this, it's been a few months now, but I was reading this online. You can read it online, but I decided to just pick it up because it's easier to read in actual book form. Lore Olympus, and this is by, of course, it's blocked the name, Rachel Smythe. So this is beautiful. I love the artwork in this. This is a retelling of Hades and Persephone, which is one of my favorite myths, and it's kind of a modern day retelling, a little bit of it, but look at the art. It's so pretty. So anyway, so I was like, let me pick this up in book form. There is multiple volumes. So this is the first volume. Like I just said, I was reading it online. I cannot remember where I was. And it's been a few months since I've read from it. So I decided, well, I'll just pick it up. I'll just pick it up in book form and start with the first one because I don't remember where I was. So, okay, and then the next prompt in the second row is library book. Like I said, most of these are library books, so I just picked one. Another one that I had on my TBR bookshelf, the Ex-Hex. This was a smaller one. That's another reason why I chose this one out of all of them. This is a cute story by Erin Sterling about a witch, and she ends up going to a small town, and you know, that whole thing. So it's a, you know, small town romance type of novel from what I know. Okay, then the third row in the bingo is, oh, I didn't even say what it was, over 500 pages. So I chose Daughter of No Worlds, and this is by Carissa Broadbent. And this is the first book in the War of Lost Hearts series, and it's about a slave, a girl, Tasana, who was a slave, and she attempts to gain her freedom, and she ends up killing one of the people that enslaved her, I guess. And she ends up, because of that, she's forced into an apprenticeship with someone, what was his name? Maxantarius Farleon. Anyway, of course, in fantasy novels, you have a lot of pretty exotic names. But I've heard really good things about this, and it is over 500 pages. I'm going to see the exact amount. It is, how many pages? It was like over, 506 pages. So it just made it. There were a couple others on my cart that were close to 500, but they did not meet the requirement. So this one did. So this one's getting chosen. Okay, next in the, excuse me, guys. Next in the row, the third row is escapism. 1 second. All right, sorry about that, guys. I got that tickle in my throat that makes you cough when you get that dry tickle. And so I had to go get a drink. So as I was saying, escapism is the next prompt in the third row. I decided to dip my toes into Brandon Sanderson and read Tress of the Emerald Sea. I do really want to start his series. The Mistborn series I heard is a good place to start. I do love, like I said, I love fantasy, but I figured I would go ahead and like dip my toes in his Cosmere world. I've heard really good things about this one. I heard it's dedicated to his wife, first of all. He wrote it for his wife. And it is kind of like Princess Bride-esque. And I love The Princess Bride. It's one of my all-time favorite movies. So I was like, yes, let's read this one. So that is that one. Then the next space is a free space. So you don't have to read anything for that space to count. Then the one after that is BookTube recommendation. I watch a lot of other booktubers and I've seen this one a lot. There's been a lot of buzz about this one. It is Heartless Hunter by Kristen Ciccarelli. This is also known as The Crimson Moth in other areas of the world, but for some reason they renamed it here in the United States. So I don't know why, but it is the Crimson Moth series, I think. Yeah, see, the Crimson Moth book 1. So it is about a world where witchcraft witches are being hunted. So magic is outlawed. Witches are being hunted, and there are witches that are being hunted, and then there are the witch hunters. Well, this girl named Rune, she is like a socialite by day. She acts like she's this airheaded socialite that doesn't know anything, that's harmless, that, flirts or whatever. And by night, she is the Crimson Moth. She rescues other witches. She's a witch herself, but no one knows it. And she goes and rescues other witches. And then there is a witch hunter named Gideon who hates witches, and he's like out to capture Rune. And it's the enemies to lovers trope, which I do love, one of my favorite tropes. So I was excited to pick this up. I thought it would be the perfect prompt, or the perfect book for that prompt. Okay, next one in the third row, the last prompt is a book you keep on putting off. Well, I love Leigh Bardugo. I love her Grishaverse books. They are some of my all-time favorite series. They're awesome. But this one, first of all, was kind of intimidating to me. So The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. For some reason, it is kind of intimidating to me. It is a standalone, as far as I know. I'm pretty sure it's just a standalone. But also, the other reason why I've been like, I don't know if I want to read it, is because the cover freaks me out, you guys. I don't like scorpions. It's such a yucky cover. It gives me the heebie-jeebies, and so I'm like, so I figured that would be a good one for this prompt. But it takes place in Spain in the 1500s, in a place where there is like magic, kind of. And the main character is a scullery maid for a well-to-do family. And she knows a little bit of magic that helps her do her duties throughout the day. She is secretly Jewish, and this is during the time of the Spanish Inquisition. And so I think a lot of things like political intrigue happens. I think there's like some sort of I'm not sure exactly. I don't know much more than that. But I saw Leigh Bardugo and I was like, I need to read it because like I said, I do really love her Grishaverse series. And I'm going to try and just ignore the cover as I'm reading. Okay, then we are on the fourth row of the book bingo. The first one is short story. And this one I decided to choose actually because of Tiffany from Beautiful Minutia. She mentioned it in one of her prior videos, that one of her favorite stories was Edgar Allan Poe's The Fall of the House of Usher. And she hadn't read it in a long time, but it was one of her favorites. And I was like, you know what? I haven't read any Edgar Allan Poe in a super, super long time. That would be the perfect one for this prompt. So that is what I chose. The Fall of the House of Usher by Edgar Allan Poe. There are other short stories in this because that's mainly what he wrote. I can't think of anything that he wrote that was a long story off the top of my head. But I think I'm going to read that one because of Tiffany's recommendation, because that's one I haven't ever read. So I wanted to do something new. Okay, then the next one is Friendship or Found Family. I feel like this one is kind of a found family vibe. It is The Young Elites, and this is by Marie Lu. And it's about a girl who ends up getting powers because there is like a plague that goes through. There's a plague that goes through the world or this country, and it kills a ton of people. And then those that survive, especially children, they end up with powers, kind of. But a lot of people end up fearing these people that end up with powers. And Adelina is her name? Yeah, Adelina, she's one of the ones that survived the blood fever, and she ends up with powers. And so there's someone that in the government that wants to get rid of anyone that has these powers, and then there's also those that are trying to protect those with powers. They end up a secret society called the Dagger Society. So yeah, so it sounds like perfect for this prompt. I feel like it will be kind of a found family vibe, especially because I guess her family ends up like hating her, disowning her type of thing, because she ends up with those powers, and they're, people don't like it. These people that have them. Okay, then we have the next one is called Vacation or Travel Book. I decided to choose Miss Morgan's Book Brigade, and this is by Janet Skeslin Charles. And this is kind of based on a true story, and it takes place in Paris in 1918 and then also 1987. And it's about, in 1918, this woman named Jessie Carson. She, after World War II, World War I, travels to Paris to try and help rebuild the area, and she's a librarian. So she goes to bring books to people, specifically children. She has like a traveling children's library, I guess. And then in 1980, she ends up disappearing, and no one ever figures out what happens to her or something like that. And then in 1987, another librarian named Wendy Peterson stumbles across some info about Jessie Carson while working in the archives of the New York Public Library. And so she becomes consumed with trying to figure out what happened to Jessie. And she goes to Paris as well and stuff. So I figured, hey, that one will work really well. It sounds like a very intriguing book. I am looking forward to reading that. So Miss Morgan's Book Brigade. Then we have the next one is a cozy mystery. I decided on The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. And this really drew me in because it felt very much like the show Only Murders in the Building, kind of. And that is a super fun show. My family and I have only watched the first season because we don't have Hulu. but we watched the first season that was on regular TV, and it was super fun. If you have a chance, I would say watch that. That was a fun show. So this was kind of giving me the same vibes. It's about 4 unlikely friends who meet weekly to discuss unsolved crimes. Together, they call themselves the Thursday Murder Club, and they are senior citizens. And so they end up finding themselves in the middle of a first live case when a local developer ends up being found dead by mysterious circumstances. So seems fun, seems cozy, mystery. So I look forward. I guess it's the first in a 4-book series from what I understand. So that should be good. Okay, the next one I do not have yet. This is another one and I'm waiting to get from the library. But I decided to choose for the prompt nature. I chose A River Runs Through It. And this was by, let me see, who was it by again? By Norman McLean. And this was a very famous book back in the day, or no, well, yeah, book too, but a movie. It was turned into a movie directed by Robert Redford, and I was like, you know what? That will be the perfect prompt for, or the perfect book for that prompt. And I was also trying to find one that was shorter, and that one was only like a couple hundred pages, I think, and not a book I normally would pick up. So I was like, yes, this one will work perfectly. So A River Runs Through It for the nature prompt. Okay, then the last row we have in the book bingo card is the first one, sci-fi or fantasy. As I said, I'm a fantasy girl, so I decided to go with sci-fi to change things up a little and picked Red Rising. This is by Pierce Brown, and it is a sci-fi about on Mars, I think it takes place. It's a society, a color-coded society of the future. Darrow is a red, and it's the lowest caste in the society. And he and his fellow reds work all day believing that he and his people are making the surface of Mars livable for future generations. So yes, it takes place on Mars, but in the way, way future, I guess. He spends his life willingly, knowing that his blood and sweat will one day result in a better world for his children. But Darrow and his kind have been betrayed. Soon he discovers that humanity already reached the surface generations ago. Vast cities and sprawling parks spread across the planet. Darrow and Reds like him are nothing more than slaves to a decadent ruling class. So I've heard really good things about this series, and it worked perfectly. Sci-fi works. Absolutely. Okay, next one is Buzzy Book. Buzzy Book is a book you hear about all the time. It's getting buzz all the time. I decided to choose The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. I'm not a thriller person, and this is one of those, you know how you can get annoyed when you hear about something constantly? I know I get annoyed when other people get annoyed and refuse to read or watch something because they hear about it all the time when it ends up being something I love. And I have to admit, I was one of those people when it came to Harry Potter, because I heard about it all the time, and it wasn't until how old was I? My mid to late 20s that my mom finally convinced me, you just need to read it. And so I did, and I fell in love with the series, which, So sometimes there's a reason books are buzzy, because they are actually really good. or movies or whatever else. Well, this is how I feel now about The Housemaid and other Frida McFadden books, just because I hear about it all the time. But I'm going in with open mind, and also it's a thriller, which is not a genre I read. Kind of can be too scary for me, but I think this is a thriller that's not like going to be scary in like a horror way or anything like that. So I was like, okay, this will be the perfect choice for this prompt. So The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. That is one that I'm waiting for from the library. Okay, the next one is a reread. I have a ton of books that I could choose for this one, but this is one of my favorite Regency authors. It is a Regency romance book, but it is a clean Regency romance. It's not one of those bodice rippers or anything like that. So it is, I don't know what book in this series it is, but it's part of a series called the Sanguinet Saga. And it is Nanette. I think this is like the second book, something like that. And it's by Patricia Varian. If you're familiar with Georgette Heyer, she writes books. Patricia Varian wrote books that are similar. I'm pretty sure she's passed by now. It's been a minute since she's written. I'm pretty sure that she has passed on. But I love her books. I have all of them. I'm pretty sure I have all of them. But it is a Regency. It is like an interconnected type world. It has romance, but again, it's clean romance. And it also has like adventure. It's not just like set, the romance isn't just the only part of it. As I said, this is the Sanguinet Saga. So there's like a mystery and adventure throughout. In one book, you will have the main characters and side characters. And then in the next book, you will have some of the side characters that become the main characters. So I love that. I love when books do that, when it's all interconnected. And especially because you can become attached to certain like characters that were like secondary characters in one book, and then they become the main characters, and you're like, yes. So anyway, so Nanette is, like I said, I think it's the second or third book in the official Sanguinet Saga. So I figured this would be a good one. I do highly, like I said, if you like Regency type books, if you like ones that are more adventure driven, kind of mystery driven, but still that romance aspect too, highly recommend. So there's the Sanguinet Saga. She wrote one, another series that was the League of Jeweled Men, I think it was called. And that series is really good too. And then there was also one, like the Jacobian. It was like a Jacobian series. And that one you should read before the League of Jeweled Men. Those take place in earlier than Regency England. But anyway, great books. Like I said, if you like Georgette Heyer books, give these a try. Patricia Varian, great. Okay, so that is what I'm going with for the reread. Let's see. Then the next one is new to you author. So this one is Abby Jimenez. Heard so many good things about her books. This is Part of Your World, which is, she writes kind of the same as Patricia Varian in that they're interconnected, but they're standalones kind of at the same time. So this is the first in, I think it's called the Part of Your World series. So I wanted to read this one, to read specifically the third one, which is something about summer. I don't remember. I've heard they're really good, and they're cleaner romance too, is what I've heard. That she writes not smutty stuff, more closed door type of romance. So part of your world for that one. She is a new to me author. And then the last one I have for you, speaking of Regency, is mentioned in another book. I decided to choose Pride and Prejudice, which is mentioned in Twilight. Bella in the Twilight Saga is a huge reader. She loves reading classics. And I was like, oh, perfect. That will work really well. So Pride and Prejudice, I have read this. I actually just got this version and I love it. I got this one, the Emma and Sense and Sensibility, which are my 3 favorites by Jane Austen. This is the Puffin Classics version, I think, or something like that. I think they're so pretty. I love them. Anyway, back to this. So I decided to pick this one up since it's mentioned in Twilight. So that is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. Love, love, love. Okay, that's it, you guys. So that's all the books I am planning on reading for the summer book bingo. It lasts from June through the end of August. So lots of time to get through all of these. And yeah, so every entry, every row, diagonal, row, up and down, however you want to do it, like regular bingos, gets you an entry. So definitely participate if you want to. It's going to be a lot of fun. Please like and subscribe if you haven't yet. I appreciate all of you guys. If you are participating, let me know in the comments. And if you have your own video, I would love to know what you've chosen as far as books go. It's always so fun to see what other people are reading. So I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And until next time, TTFN. Ta-ta for now.